I'm going to show you how to disassemble and reassemble a bolt for a Dutch Mannlicher Model 1895. This bolt is from a KNIL Carbine, which was a carbine issued to troops in the Dutch East Indies. I am by no means a Dutch firearms expert or a YouTube video expert. I wanted to make this video because I recently shot some corrosive ammo out of my carbine, and I wanted to disassemble and clean it, and I couldn't find a single internet video on how to disassemble. I did find a very good post on gun boards that went into great detail about the process, but it's long, and I just tend to do better understanding things when I can see them in action. So I figured I'd make the video. So first, just an overview. We have a nut that screws onto the back of the bolt, and then the firing pin. It's got like a knurled edge on it. There is a safety lever, which when the bolt's out and the handle's up is at the 9 o'clock position. It has a spring in it, and which depresses, which is important because you'll see this nut has a cutout that needs to clear that safety lever to unscrew and screw it on. You have your cocking piece, bolt body, and bolt head with the extractor and this floating bracket that wraps around one of the locking lugs. Before you disassemble, take note of this cocking piece has this detent that sits into this little indent or cutout in the bolt body. You can see it there when I move it out. It's important to note that because you're going to have to return this cocking piece to that position when you reassemble the bolt. The other thing is a witness line on the back of the nut. If you're familiar with Mosins, you know that armors lined up or put a witness line against the screw head of the firing pin so that when the bolt was assembled or reassembled, disassembled and reassembled, the soldier could get the firing pin protrusion where it should be. So with that said, you're going to hold the bolt in your left hand with the bolt handle straight up, and you're going to rotate the cocking piece 90 degrees counterclockwise so that the detent slides into this little V-notch on the bolt body. And when you do that, that's going to rotate the firing pin and the bolt head and allow you to pull the bolt head off the front of the bolt. So next, you need to unscrew this and remove this nut. And to do that, you have to do two things. One, you need to put some tension on the spring by pushing it down into a board or whatever, soft surface, but something that'll give you some ability to push this firing pin down. And you need to depress the safety lever at the same time. So doing that at the same time, push that down, and that will allow that nut to clear the safety lever and come off. Now, of course, this is under a lot of tension, so don't just let this thing go or you'll have pieces flying everywhere. Okay, the cocking piece then comes off, the safety lever pulls out, the spring can be taken off and removed, and your firing pin and spring come out of the bolt body. Now, it's important to note that on this firing pin there is a flat piece milled at the end of the firing pin. On mine, it happens to be on the same side of the pin as where the numbers are stamped on the flat in front of the, just behind the actual firing pin. And it's important to take note of that because that flat piece has to line up to a corresponding cutout in the bolt body or your bolt won't go back together the right way. So to start reassembling, you just put the spring back on the firing pin. With the bolt handle facing up, you want to put the firing pin in so that that flat cutout and the numbers are facing down, and then just reverse order to assemble. Put the cocking piece on. Make sure that that detent goes back into that V. Again, sometimes you got to make sure that that flat lines up. So put your cocking piece back on. Put your safety lever on, and then pushing them both down again, just like you did before. And I want to screw the nut back on. Until you can, that witness line lines up and it the notch clears the safety lever, and you have that bolt back together except for the bolt head. Slide that bolt head back on with the extractor up in the 12 o'clock position when the bolt handle is straight up, and then just return that cocking piece. You can rotate it clockwise 90 degrees so that that detent sits in that little recess, and that is how you do it. Hope it helps.